Welcome to the Little Wins podcast, where school leaders share their little wins that build strong culture, with your host, Karen Borchert. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Little Wins, the podcast where we shine a light on the small, meaningful moves school leaders make to build strong, sustainable culture in schools and districts. I'm your host, Karen Borchert, and today I get to introduce you to Dr. Adam Magliari, a superintendent of Mediapolis Community School District in Iowa, a tight-knit district serving just under 1,000 students in a rural community that really rallies around its schools. Adam's story is such a great example of what happens when a leader brings both heart and systems thinking to the work of education. He's a former PE teacher and an 8-year high school principal, and now leads the district, making serious gains in student outcomes, teacher leadership, and community connection. Adam's also someone who really gets it when it comes to teacher burnout and retention. His doctoral research dug deep into what helps teachers stay and how leadership plays a role in that. He brings that perspective to his work every single day, building shared leadership, strategic goals, and student-centered growth areas across the district. I am so excited to dig into this conversation. Adam, welcome to Little Wins.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm very excited to be here with you, Karen, and talk a little bit about the excellent things happening here in Mediapolis.
Wonderful. Awesome. Well, let's start there. Let's start with your district. Tell us, take us into your hallways, your stadium, your everything. Tell us a little bit about Mediapolis School District.
Yeah. So we're a district just slightly under 1,000. We're in Southeast Iowa. So we're in between two towns. Mediapolis is kind of formulated because it's the median between Wapello and Burlington. So if you know anything about Iowa, we're nestled right in there. We've got an interstate that's building right through our town that we had to shut down a road as we started school because interstate is happening right now through Mediapolis. So if you know 61, it comes right through our beautiful community and district. There's a ton of pride in our town. We have a beautiful main street, an awesome little city council that kind of governs our city, and we work really hand in hand as a community. You know, our school drives what our community does, and vice versa. So a lot of great things happening here in Mediapolis. Our building structure is we're all kind of connected in one. There's been a lot of renovations over the years. So if you start from the red brick building that where all schools started, and you keep moving and down, you can see how it has grown over the years to what it is today. In 1998, they put in an elementary school, and right now we're building a $10 million addition onto that school because we have, rooms in places that shouldn't be right now. We're teaching out of all pockets of the building. So we're going to have this new addition and a new gym, but tons of pride, an amazing place to work. We have roughly around 130 employees. And like I said, about 964 is where we ended up last year. So right under 1,000 students. We just recently opened our preschool, which is the first time we've had a preschool here. 99.3% of schools in Iowa had preschools. We did not. We are one of two. So we're excited to get that going. And with this addition, we'll have more classrooms, more space to serve our community. So very community driven, amazing place to be.
I love it. I love that you mentioned it's an amazing place to work. As you know, Little Wins talks a lot about school culture and what makes school a great place to work. Tell me why your district and why your schools are a great place to work.
It's the people, right? The people are what drives everything. And for us, being a small school, we get to have more of a personalized experience with our employees, with each other. And so one of the first things I did coming here is I did one-on-one meetings with staff. So opening the door to anyone that wanted to come talk to me. And our slogan for this year is it takes all of us. And so when we talk about that, I mean, we truly mean it. And the way I kind of talked to staff about it is somebody's got to take our students to school every single day. Someone has to make sure they're fed. Someone has to be alongside our most needed learners running our classrooms. We have our administrators that are opening the doors and a list of things happening every single day. So it really takes a village. It takes all of us. And so we believe in that motto. And part of it is just having that personalized experience, listening to people. And a lot of those conversations are what drive, this new addition we're getting ready to do right now, people said, we need a preschool. We don't have space. Well, we got to look into that. And so we master planned, and in year 3, walls are going up, and we're moving towards the future.
I love it. I love too that you're, kind of taking on this new preschool, right? Right at a time where early childhood education is so important. What do you think that means for your community? Like, what kind of impact is that going to have?
Yeah, it's going to have a big impact. We just don't have enough daycare here right now.
Yeah.
So one of the things we're looking at is all day preschool for our little ones. So if we're able to pull that off, that will alleviate a big burden on our daycare and also serve our community. Because right now there's a huge waiting list for that. But also, even more importantly, is we're diving into data earlier than we ever have before in the areas of reading and different things like that. So we're creating a lot of data walls and at pre-K all the way through.
Yeah.
There's a lot of standards, gold standards that we're looking at right now. And so our kindergarten teachers are not coming in blind with students, but actually we're working them through our system, which is important, right? There's great preschools out there, but you want to be developing those standards at an early age. And we've been able to do that. So it's been good for us.
That's awesome. It sounds like this is such a close-knit community, and overall, like in your schools and overall in your community. Tell me a little bit about a little bit more about that relationship between the community and the schools, and how you kind of serve as a hub for that community.
So it all starts with really the conversation that happens between what are the city goals, what are the school goals, and what do those things look like. When I first got here, I went to a couple focus groups, and one of the first things they asked is, what's your vision? Well, we haven't created one yet. We did not have a strategic plan for our school district, so we had to build that from the ground up. And in year 3, we've unveiled that strategic plan. But one of the things that I got to do is work on the city steering committee and be able to work with our local leaders and look at what does Mediapolis look like in 2030, 2040, and 2050. Cool. So looking at their goals, looking at how, our goals sort of align together. I mean, that's powerful stuff, but it's more than that. I mean, I think it's the grassroots of just being involved in different clubs and just being visible, right? Yeah. And talking with people. You learn so much doing that. We're in the middle of a bond campaign right now. And so when I'm out and about talking with people, I learn the history. I learn what makes them tick a little bit, what they're excited about, what are things what their hopes are. Yeah. And so a lot of listening and a lot of personalized experiences can be had in a small community that loves their school and loves their city.
Very cool. So this is amazing. Obviously, you have you kind of mentioned talking about a huge amount of pride between your community and your school. You obviously have a lot of school spirit today. Tell us, you're like dressed up and ready to go. Like, tell us about it.
Yeah. So we have a big game tonight. Actually, when you said I was the principal for 8 years, we're playing the school I was at before for the first time ever in football. But I also kind of do a lot of other things. So I'll be announcing the football game tonight.
Really?
Yeah. So I'll be doing the announcements out there. So if you were here, you would hear me getting excited on the microphone, tonight, which I'm a fill-in. I don't do every game, but it's all hands on deck here at Mediapolis. I've done everything from that. But I do want to say, as a leader, though, it's important to get involved, right? Yeah. And when I say that, have your transportation director, either your superintendent or a principal. Even when I was a principal, I would go in, I would wipe tables, I would get with my kitchen staff. Here, when we're shorthanded, I'm in scooping fruit and different things like that. Being involved is so very important because people see you other than, that's the superintendent walking around. They see you at the level that they're at, and they know you care, right? So we're talking about culture. What's more important than to make sure that everyone knows that we're all at the same, it takes all of us, we're all at the same level together. Mm-hmm. I was in an admin class, and one of the things that was said, and I thought was so powerful, is, are you going to be the leader that stands over the manhole? Or are you going to be the one that goes in it? Right.
Oh, yeah.
And so that always stuck with me. So whenever there's a I'm not afraid to grab a mop or whatever. So whenever something's going on, I'm just doing it. But I also want to talk something unique about us, and that's the connection between our town and what people call us. So yes, we are Mediapolis, but we are Mepo, and that's what everyone calls us, is Mepo. And what that
Mepo.
stands for, Mepo. And anywhere you go in the state of Iowa, in Mediapolis, that's Mepo. And why they say that is our vision is we're motivated by excellence, pride, and opportunity.
Whoa.
So that's what Mepo stands for. I did not create that. That was here before my time, but I absolutely love it. And we're just
all right. Let's say it again. Make sure people understand. Yeah. Motivated by excellence,
pride, and opportunity.
Okay, excellence, pride, and opportunity. That's awesome.
So our banners everywhere you go, it's Mepo. And that's how we're known.
That's awesome. I love it. And I love that you call the games or sometimes announcing the football game, like what a cool way to connect with your community, with the families, with everyone there. That's a cool little extra thing. I just met a principal earlier this morning who does the school announcements every day on video.
Yeah.
On
I used
TV.
to do those. Those are fun.
Love that.
Yeah, I used to do the radio too in my last district. I did actually announce the game. So yeah, it's fun. So
that's awesome.
People want to see you out and about though. And so when I get out of the booth, they say, "Hey, we're just glad to see you, doing those things, being visible." So I know it's a small impact, but it makes an impact,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about your path to leadership, because it's a really cool one. And it's also, I think your work, as far as, your leadership and doctorate work is so important, right now at kind of this day and age. So, tell us a little bit about your path, about how you got into education and leadership and everything.
Yeah, so my father was a professor for 40 years. He taught business, and he was very well renowned where he was. So I grew up in the classroom watching him teach a little bit. So that started a little spark for me. But more was when I would see kids come into his office and they would actually cry, and I would see the impact he was making. And later in life, I figured out why that impact happened. But for me, I always wanted to coach football or, be a football coach. And then I wanted to teach. I never knew the power of teaching until I actually got in there with the kids, had my own classroom, and built those relationships. From then on, it was everything for me. But going until that moment, going through student teaching, I had no support as a teacher.
Okay.
I actually ended up in a private school. So most people don't know this story, so I'm going to tell on myself a little bit. I was playing football in college, and I was supposed to observe at a local school. We'll just leave it local.
Yep. Okay.
And I just have time, when you get up at 6 a.m, you work out, all the things as a college athlete. But so I wasn't able to go do my observation hours until around November. Well, long story short, they dropped me in the program, and they said, you're not professional. You didn't show up. Even though I wrote emails, I said, I can't be there. I can't be two places at once.
Right.
So I ended up getting placed in a private school where I drove like an hour to do student teaching. Well, day one, I walk in and I get this textbook thrown at me, and they're like, "Okay, you start tomorrow. I'm going to do it today, but then you start tomorrow. And you have all the classes, all the things." I hadn't lesson planned before. I mean, I'm telling you, I wanted to run away. I wanted to hide. And so, and there was no mentoring support, none of those things. So when I got on there, and the funny thing was I taught on a stage. So I was actually in an auditorium on a stage with all these kids down there. Yeah, because I was teaching health at the time. There was they put 50 kids in a classroom.
Yeah.
And I'm just standing over. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, it was the longest day of my life, and I knew I had to do it 60 more times. So I just wanted to run and crawl in a hole and hide. But every day it got a little bit better. But I had to work my way through it. And I realized how much our teachers do every single day. Then going into my next school, I did everything from driving a bus to teaching, every section of the day, and all the things. So there was never mentors when I started teaching. There was never anyone helping guide the process, making sure our teachers were okay. And from a leader perspective, no one, they didn't care as long as my kids didn't end up in the office, right? It wasn't really helping me be, a better professional. So I always had always had that stuck in my head that I didn't really have the start that I wanted. And I've always wondered, like, what is the support that teachers are getting, right? And as over the years, I've learned what not to do by leadership.
Yeah.
And that sort of created my pathway to be a leader, because I
Wow.
didn't want to be the leader that I had. You know what I mean? I didn't want to be that person that just, was hands off. I wanted to support my teachers because it's a hard job. It's an
Yeah.
extremely hard job. And then over the years, I was a PE teacher. There was 200 applicants when I applied.
Whoa.
We don't get 2 or 3 applicants now.
Right. Right.
So something's happening out there, right? And so that's what kind of got me thinking about it in my dissertation and my research. But yeah, I always wanted to be a leader that cared about their people. So that's what really drove me into my leadership style, which is transformational. And we'll talk more about it. But that's kind
Absolutely.
of my brief history, I guess.
That's amazing. I actually had a very similar student teaching experience myself. I got in as a student teacher teaching high school English, and I was student teaching for the soccer coach of an absolutely award-winning soccer team, like absolute like championship soccer team. And he was like, "Oh, good, you're here." And it was like the next day he was like, "Here, you're teaching these books to the honors kids." And I was like, okay. And like, it was the craziest. I did not know. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to do it. And he was like, "The coffee pot's over there." I was like, okay.
Yeah. That was the thing. I realized I'm like, on this guy's break for like 3 months. Like, and I never saw him again. I really didn't.
Same.
I don't know where he ended up. I don't know. He's taking, coffee breaks all day or whatever, but I don't want to say I never saw him, but I mean, I literally really never saw him. I ran the class. So yeah, ready or not, here you come. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, you had the same experience. Yeah.
It's kind of a testament though to how taxed teachers are, right? Like this
True.
guy that I was student teaching for was teaching, he's teaching 5 sections of English, everything from like 9th grade, kids who are struggling all the way to 12th grade honors, and also coaching the soccer teams and, doing an amazing job. But he was also at soccer every day from, 3 until 11 p.m. And so, it's like by the time you to have any relief insight with a student teacher with I kind of don't blame him. I was like, yeah, I mean, of course you need some help in there. Like he had a lot of pressure on him. And I think it's a testament to how much, teachers are taking on both during the school day and then after the school day. Well, I love the fact that fueled you to really think about kind of what makes teachers stay, what they need, how to support them. I love that. And obviously, we talk a lot about teacher support around here. So tell us a little bit about your research and your work and what you learned.
Yeah, my research was rooted in transformational leadership. So that's really, and most people don't realize, is there's actually 4 quadrants to transformational leadership, as they call them, the 4 I's, right? And so a lot of that research came from and those 4 I's are idealized influence, right? So leader serves as an ideal role model for their followers. Inspirational motivation. Transformational leaders they inspire, they motivate. Individualized consideration, which is demonstrating genuine concern for the needs and feelings of followers that bring out the best efforts in them. And then intellectual stimulation, right? So you have to be innovative, you have to be creative. So there's 4 I's to transformational leadership. And as I went through my research, one of the things that my dissertation chair really pushed me on is he really felt like those I's are unique. I don't think many people have heard of those, right? So what ended up happening is we looked a lot about how do we make sure that we're not top-down approach with teachers. Like we're not just taking what the flavor of the month and we're just, here it is, right? And figure it out. And you see that a lot. In one of my interviews with a teacher that was leaving the profession, because I did 4 interviews with teachers leaving the profession and 4 high retention principals. So I looked at the principal leadership side of it, and I looked at the teacher side of it as well. And this one was from a comprehensive school in Iowa. And they said, the state came in, they gave us 5 new curriculums this year, and they said, go. And I'm thinking, we were just adopting our reading curriculum here. And that was such a a really big, it still is
shift. Yeah.
a big shift for our teachers. And I'm thinking, wow, you have 5, right? So nobody cared about your well-being whatsoever. And then more things came out of the interviews, like things like, I didn't feel supported by my principal when I was in a situation. It's almost like when you're coaching a little bit, where you might get on a player, but do you follow up with that player afterwards? Do you have that conversation, letting them know, hey, I was just talking, I'm coaching you because I believe in you and because of these things. But really from the teacher perspective, it came down to that individualized consideration. Because at the end of the interview, I had about an hour interview with everybody. It was a qualitative research. I had them look at the chart, and I said, which one of these is the most important, quadrant for transformational leadership? And 7 out of 8 said individualized consideration. And
really?
Only one that said inspirational motivation happened to be a old coach that left the profession. Of course, a coach is going to say motivation is number one.
Motivation, yeah, that's
but
right.
that was their right to choose that as a participant too. So I need to be fair to that. But I think there's something really, really there with individualized consideration that came out in the research. But further than that is again, are you allowing the people in your buildings to be the ones making the decision, right? So as we look at our strategic plan, I didn't just bring in somebody from the outside and say, hey, because we could have, $15,000. Yeah. You can bring someone in, they'll build it for you. No, we had conversations. We looked together at the data. We created those goals together, and not just here's a goal, go figure it out. They were a part of all of that, the mission statement, the vision, all those things. So collectively, right, we are creating this vision together. And I think that's powerful.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I want to dig a little tiny bit more into that concept of individualized consideration, and just understand a little bit about what that looks like in your district today. So how does that actually show up in practice for you all?
In a lot of different ways, right? So I think one of the questions that was given to me prior to is, what role does your principal have, and some of that's in that as well. Well, it's one thing to build this strategic plan as a superintendent, but as a principal, you live it every single day. You're the one that's walking the hallways. So visibility and making sure that you're seen and that you hear people is so very important. In a small district, like we're not super small, but we're smaller. Yeah. You're going to get to know people more than just a name and a face. So having that genuine concern or that care for that person is so hugely important. And I can't say that I've solved every problem here, right? Because there's always more work to do and to be done. But I think I would like to think that everyone has felt heard. And so one of the things that we talked about, so there's a few pockets of this, right? One is we looked at a communication chart for our district. Okay. And so I had to be very careful with this. And I opened up the school year about it, because I said, just because things move to me over here doesn't mean you can't come talk to me, right? But we wanted to make sure that everybody in our district has someone that they can talk to, right? So where do I go if I have a concern?
That's awesome.
Right. So from there, right.
Let me just say that again, so everyone hears it, is that you wanted to make sure that everyone in the district has someone they can talk to. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Just really quick, I want to hear all the details of that, but really quick, what was that about for you? Tell me more about why you wanted that.
Well, part of its previous experience, where, if you don't have the right waves of communication, it falls off the rail very quickly. So you got people that end up calling board members, they're upset. Sometimes principals never know about it, right? Mm-hmm. Or I'm always running to the superintendent office. This didn't happen in my building, but in other buildings in my district, it did. Where principals maybe had lost their connection with their teachers. And so teachers were going above and beyond to other people. And those conversations aren't happening where they need to happen first.
Right.
Now, granted, as a superintendent, I need to help my principals build the tools to have those conversations. Yeah. Whether they're critical or not. making sure people feel heard again. But I wanted to make sure that, in this chart I'll share with you, you
Yeah.
can give it to the
We can
audience,
share
whatever.
it.
It's actually been adopted by a bunch of superintendents in the area. They're starting to use it. But it's really making sure, and it's for parents too, like, where do you go first, right? We're not going to come to the superintendent. We got to go where the source is. And it's not to avoid it. I'm here to support everyone, but making sure that people get where they need to go when they need something it's crucial. That's step one.
That is so simple. Honestly, like, what a simple solution because you're right. I mean, I'm a parent in a school district, right? And if I have a challenge or a question about things, knowing where to go, where to start, and how to go feels like, it's not always super clear on what to do about that. And you don't want to just, call up the superintendent, that's not necessarily the right plan. But at the same time, you also want to figure out the right solution. And so I think, everyone left to their own devices doesn't always know exactly what to do. So the idea of it, just a simple chart to say, like, if you're having a challenge and this is who you are, try this first and this second it's brilliant, really.
Even in the coach, an athletic coach, or they're all in there. There. So where do I go first?
Oh, cool.
So, and we use our policy to say we believe that communication happens at the lowest level first before we take it further. So that was huge for us. But also big for us is our guiding coalition, which is our Lighthouse team, right? Because one of those, so we have 23 people on this team. We have 72 teachers. So it's a pretty big team, and they're in different buildings. So we have the district strategic plan. They create the building goals, and those building goals are in 3 areas, right? So leadership is one, culture is another, academics is the third. So it's not just about reading scores or those things, which are very vital, right? But we want to make sure that the culture is good and that leadership is happening within the buildings with our teachers. And and this year will be student Lighthouse teams too. So our students will be cool. A part of that connection as well. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about the Lighthouse teams. So these have traditionally been educators across the buildings. And but now you're inviting students into that. What does that look like in practice?
Yeah. So what it looks like in practice is we had a boot camp that started the year. So we start with like a full day before teachers come. And one of the things that we did all summer long is we grabbed data from everything. So it could be staff surveys, student surveys, academic data, attendance data, all the things, so that so we are very data aligned, very data focused. All summer long, I was on spreadsheets typing in trying to create graphs, right? Because I don't want to just look at 85% proficiency in reading. I want to look at the domain per grade level. Where are we at? What are those focus areas? So that's instructionally, but also we partnered because I strongly believe in transformational leadership. So we partnered with Franklin Covey's work, which is 4 disciplines of execution and the leader in me stuff. And so what we've done, which I believe is great work, is create our goals, right? So those wildly important goals and our cadence of accountability are leading indicators that move those goals in each area of leadership, culture, and academics.
Excellent.
And then there's leaders in each building. They pick a committee that they're on, right? And so they're part of like leading that leadership, leading that culture, leading that academic. And those are where the conversations really happen. Because if you don't have those conversations, again, let's go back to the most important piece. If you don't have those conversations, then people don't feel heard, and you can't work together through whatever that problem may be.
Right. Wonderful. This is so great. I love it. It feels to me like, kind of from your research, your history, your community, and all of that you're putting together, you are building this kind of very unique school culture and kind of set of values. Tell me a little bit about kind of what are the core values that really define the culture at Mediapolis, at Mepo. And a little bit about kind of how you put that in practice.
Well, our core values are they come out of who we are, right? So again, there's a lot of pride here. There's
Yeah.
definitely, with a small school district, we want to give every opportunity for our staff and our students. So I may dovetail this question a little bit, but when we think about it, we have four domains that we look at: student success being one, employee excellence being another, community engagement, again, that piece, right? That bridge between us and the community. And of course, I get fiscal responsibility because
Sure.
we better have resources to do what we need
Got
to
to do
do
that.
in our school district. So those four domains, though, really help drive who we are. So I'll give you an example: employee excellence. I think, because we're on that sort of subject, what I think is unique here, a couple things. One, our paraprofessionals have professional development every month. So we
Oh,
give a
cool.
cadence of professional development to our support staff. We brought our bus drivers in as well and did the 7 healthy habits training with them, with our support
Really?
staff, embodied everything that we want to be, right, together. And so again, it's making sure that everyone is a part of what we are. So
Yep.
so I think that's unique because I haven't seen that done in other districts. So our paraprofessionals come in. They do a lot of different trainings throughout the year. We kind of have it's set up how that goes. But also our mentoring program, because
Okay.
again, very, very important is sustainability and retention of your teachers. So we have a mentor program where our instructional coaches, they meet biweekly, check in with the teachers. We run instructional cycles built on anything that a teacher wants to do on the elements of Marzano. So that's our art and science of teaching. That's our
Yeah.
instructional framework. But we're really embodying that hand to hand. Like, we do a lot of projects throughout the year. So we're standard based grading, right?
Very cool.
So one of the things we do is we might bring in a scale and share a scale together and those sort of things. But I think it's all part of working together, right? And having those supports, because I've had mentor programs. I want to be clear that, your best teacher might be your mentor teacher, but they're busy. Like you said
Mm-hmm.
earlier, right? They've got so much going on. They can't go work with that teacher, like, as much as they want to. So in that situation, like, my coaches can. And so that's
Yeah.
why we moved that from shadow teacher to now instructional coaches. And we have
Oh,
really,
very
really
cool.
built a strong instructional coaching framework,
Oh,
which is
that's
supporting our teachers and our paraprofessionals. Um, so Lighthouse team is one of our big leadership, that's our transformational leadership. We have a tech integration team as well. So
yeah.
a lot of what they're looking at is how do we integrate technology in the classroom? That's ever changing. AI is huge right now.
I was
So they're
just about to
creating
ask.
they're creating an AI policy for our district. They're going to create that policy, present to our board, right? So again,
Very cool.
here's the policy, go do it, is not how we do things here. So just
Yeah.
examples of, I think, ways you can get your teachers involved, and I think it's very powerful.
Very cool.
I think it's the
Excellent.
secret recipe. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not everything. Our state has moved salaries and different things. 50,000 is our minimum for teachers. So if you want to work in Iowa, that's our salary minimum. So those things are important too. Don't get me wrong. There's lots of layers to this teacher
Yeah.
shortage we deal with, but
Sure.
individual consideration, I think, is a powerful one.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Well, tell us a little bit, kind of take us into the day to day, right? So tell us a little bit about what does it look like on at each building in the district, and all. Well, I mean, it's one campus, but tell us a little bit about kind of how are you creating day to day the culture for employees to feel really empowered in their work, feel like that in the things that kind of really align to your research around retention and burnout. Tell us what it looks like day to day.
Well, day to day is day to day in a school district,
Right.
but I think one of the things, I wanted to kind of hone in on a little more, and one of the things my principals talked about and what they do here is really making sure that you're hitting those pockets every day, right? So your visibility is important. Sometimes in central office, obviously, the work can get a little overloaded, especially with a bond and different things I'm in the
Yeah.
middle of right now. But I think our boots on the ground are so very important, and what culture looks like. And that's that day to day as you're talking about. I think our principals do a wonderful job making sure that they're temperature checking throughout their buildings. We talk a lot about that. What's the temperature right now? What are things that are hot button? And again, that cadence of accountability that every 2 weeks when you meet with your leadership teams. So if those are represented in all pockets of your building, then that circle of communication continues to flow throughout. And so that's important too. But we have a great culture here. Cultures are always something that is ever growing, right? But we have an awesome student population, and our kids. I'm really excited about this next step and really having our students sort of take over their school. I think that's going to be so powerful because we're creating these goals, right? But we want to get it down to the student level. We want our students to be creating goals within the classroom for themselves, but also like I put a hold on, I like to do some branding stuff, right? So you can see my M in the background, but we're going to do some of our wraps on our buildings are getting old, right? And I wanted to replace them last year because that's just me. I don't know if I got a little bit of OCD or what, but I get a little bit excited when I see things that need fixed. But we're going to let them do that. So we're going to let them design those things and help them, be decision makers, but also be leaders, right? So how they can come down and meet with the elementary kids, that creates a culture. One of the cool things at homecoming last year is our seniors gave a gift to our kindergartners on their way out, their last homecoming. Those connection pieces in a small school district like this matter. And so
makes a huge difference.
It's everybody, right? Culture's everybody.
Yes, absolutely. I love this idea of having students take over their school is like, what a cool concept and idea. And how does your team, like how do your teachers and staff and kind of encourage that idea of students taking over their school? How do you make that happen with everyone?
So, it was a slow process. We didn't come in and just say, hey, we're going to do this. Last year was a lot of building. So we visited some districts that are doing some of these things. That was one thing. The other thing is you make it your own, right? So this leadership thing isn't something that's like canned and we're doing this kind of thing. Like we've been doing, I have been doing this in a different district before, but we took all of our teachers through the training.
Yep.
Right. And we talked about how do we slowly roll this out? What are the steps? And so this really our boot camp after we looked at data was planning out this year. Then they took it into in-service with their teachers and our leaders started leading it. And I'm telling you, everyone's so excited about this right now. I am excited for them. Like they see it, they see the power in it. And so that shared leadership goes beyond just our teachers. It goes into our students, into everything. So coming up here in the next week, and right now, actually, students are applying for the Lighthouse team.
Yeah.
So that's what they're doing now.
Oh, very cool.
So then they'll meet, and I'm going to kind of be a fly on the wall and come to a few of those meetings and listen and see. But our principals will start asking those questions. We've talked about everything from how can we have our kids out helping us at recess, making sure our recess is running the right way, our lunchrooms running the right way, our hallways, and just in our buildings in general. I'm just excited about it. I really am. I think
very cool.
I think every student has an ability to be a leader, and I think there's a lot of power in helping them see themselves as leaders.
I agree. One of the most surprising things about this podcast, and we haven't been doing it for very long, so I'm learning a lot through it. But I keep hearing stories of how superintendents and principals are really leveraging and also empowering students to be part of their school culture. And I think it's so neat. I just spoke with someone today who
glad you're hearing that.
Yeah, I am. And we're hearing, one of the things I heard even just today was a principal who has a emerging educators program or aspiring educators program.
Yes.
And they have kids in their high school who are interested in pursuing a role or a career in education, working as assistants and, kind of student level paras a couple of hours a day as part of their career center. And I was like, this is brilliant, because you are giving your teacher some relief and some support.
Right.
At the same time, you are inspiring and, kind of a new crop and new generation of educators at a time where it's a real need. It's a really big deal. So I love all of the different ways that schools and districts are really empowering students to be part of that culture situation. What do you see change in your culture when you're doing things like that?
Well, one of the things you got to do is invest in it. We had our CTE teachers that were leading work-based learning. So last year, we actually opened a teacher up to be able to do that. So we have that as well, where kids are going and shadowing teachers and helping out in the classrooms and
cool.
Things like that. And beyond that too, right? They're going in other industries as well. We had upwards of 50 students in there last year in our work-based learning. And so one of the things we're proud of is we've kind of doubled the average rate of work-based learning. We want to give that experience to more kids. But I guess the big thing is that career exposure is pretty important for kids. And in fact, that's what we're bonding right now as a career center. So,
cool.
That's our next step in our district. So, I don't necessarily think we need that to do work-based learning or certain things like that. We're already doing some of that. But what I want to do is get our business partners here.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the other thing, right? Is getting more people here to talk to kids, because one conversation, know thy impact, right, can change a student's future forever. Yeah. And so, so more of that. I actually wrote a grant for our teacher. It's a teacher para grant. So we have some of our para educators that there's a grant through Iowa that are in there right now taking classes and working as a para. So they will be able to teach maybe back here in Mediapolis or giving back to the shortage in the state. So we're working through that as well right now.
Very cool. And I'm sure your research informs so much of that in such a great way. Well, this is amazing. We could talk forever about all these things that you're doing and all the way, but you've got a game to get to. So I'm gonna say I'll ask kind of our wrap up questions that we ask at the end of every conversation. So I'll ask each of them. So first of all, what are the 3 words that you want to define your district's culture?
I'm going to get in trouble if I don't say motivation, pride.
Yeah, that's right.
No. So yeah, I think it's excellence, pride, and opportunity. That is our district, right? So excellence, pride, and opportunity. That's what we're motivated by. So, those 3 words drive us every single day. They drive our strategic plan. That excellence drives our goals. The pride drives who we are, and the opportunity for our staff and our students is what it's all about. Excellent.
Love it. I love it. You can it comes through everything that you say and do. So obviously you're living that as well. All right. Second question. What is one little win that you have had at work lately that we can celebrate for you?
Yeah, I think the little win was, I talked a little bit about boot camp. Mm-hmm. One of the questions I asked, one of the things that we have done is, we were begging teachers to be on this in year 1, right? So going into year 2, we've expanded positions. So what I asked them really quick was, I said, so why are you on this team? Right. Yeah. And what they told me was, I want to be a part of it's too important for me not to be on this team. So I want to be a part of the decisions and the future of our district. And then for them to say, for someone to say it's too powerful for me not to be was such a huge win, because
that's huge.
Yeah, I guess it's not a little one; it's a big one.
That's a big win. Yeah,
it's a big win because they're seeing the power in their own leadership, and that's driving who we are collectively. So, big win for that day. I just walked out smiling and excited for our future.
I love what you just said. You said it fast, but I want to say it again. They see the power in their own leadership. That's a truly powerful thing to say as their leader, and for them to hear and for everyone to hear. I think that seeing the power in your own leadership is a really big message. Okay, final question.
Okay.
What do you believe that any educator can do to improve their own school or district culture right now?
Wow. That's a loaded question, but I will
Here we go.
say, um, change takes time. Don't come in and come with your own set of ways to make change happen. Do a lot of listening, especially in year one. Don't make promises you can't keep, right?
Yep.
But know that change takes time, and make sure that you're doing it collectively as a team.
Yeah.
Please don't take things that are happening within the state or within your own district and without making sure that your teachers know the why behind that. They
Yes.
know they know how, right? They got the resources. They've built the trust to make it happen. And then make sure that you share those celebrations and those wins,
Yeah.
because those are
Yeah.
huge. You have to celebrate. And we didn't get to that in our interview, but I start every meeting with celebrations,
Very
and
cool.
our principals do too. Celebrate the little wins, which you're all about.
Yeah,
Little
it
wins,
is.
right?
It is. Shoot, I now I want to get back. Now I want to get back to that. Well, maybe we'll follow up and hear more about how you are doing all of that. Dr. Magliari, it's such an honor to talk with you and to understand and learn from you. We have heard so many really cool district level things, everything, from the 4 I's here, which I think, learning about, to, building a clear and simple communication chart, to the Lighthouse Teams, mentoring programs, tech integration, temperature checks, and of
We did
course,
talk about a lot.
announcing the football game. Like, you've got a lot of really amazing things going on that obviously, exemplify that idea of excellence, pride, and opportunity. So I'm grateful for your time today.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm proud to do what I do, right? I really am proud to work in this school district, and I'm very thankful for you for having me today. So thank you.
Absolutely. Well, go Bulldogs. Have a great
Go
game, and
Bulldogs.
we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take
All
care.
right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a little win? We'd love to hear from you. Learn how we help schools build strong culture at getalpaca.com.